6:02, I call this meeting to order. Can we take roll call, please?
Commissioner Torres?
Here.
Commissioner Siebert?
Present.
Commissioner Wall?
Here.
Vice Chair Pereira?
Present.
Chair DeCosta?
Present. Join me in the Pledge of Allegiance. Please rise. Right hand over your heart. Ready? Begin. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Presentations. We have an introduction of Commissioner Richard Wall. Tell us about yourself.
Good evening, Honorable Chair and Commissioners. It's with great pleasure that I introduce to you tonight Richard Wall. He is our newest commissioner, and he is the appointment of Mayor Pro Tem Clint Lorimer. And with that, I'd like to read Mr. Wall's bio. His background: he's a resident of the city of Eastvale for over 5 years, with a wife and 2 children, ages 2 and 8 months old. He is a finance manager specializing in special tax consulting and municipal finance. He's a Bachelor of Arts in Business Administration with a finance concentration. His hobbies include working with his hands in construction, activities such as remodeling houses or mechanically working on cars, likes to weld, and work on various projects as they present themselves. He likes to go to museums, science centers, and other similar types of activities with his wife, and spending lots of time with his children, of course. His goals are to continue his career development, learn and grow in the Public Safety Commission role, and continue to learn new things in general. And so with that, we would like to welcome Mr. Wall to the Commission, and I'd like to give you a few moments to say anything you'd like.
Sure. Thank you very much. I think you hit all the main points, so I won't bore everyone else with any other details, but I'm very thankful to be here. I look forward to working with their commission members and providing a service to the community. So thank you very much.
Welcome aboard.
Thank you.
Thank you, Richard. Monthly Police Department update.
Good evening. These stats are from January 25th of 2017 to February 24th. During this time frame, there were 2,803 calls for service, 67 traffic collisions, 9 that were minor injury or complaints of pain, and 18 or 20% of them occurred on Limonite. 354 citations issued, 509 parking violations or citations issued, 42 vehicle burglaries, 13 occurred in the parking areas surrounding Hamner and Limonite, 41 noise calls, 34 mail thefts, 3 mailbox clusters. And when I looked at the stats, if 2 or more occurred on the same street, I counted that as a mailbox cluster. Last meeting, the commissioners asked for additional information on the following topics: mail thefts in other cities versus Eastville. I compared mail theft stats with 5 other Sheriff's Department contract cities and saw that Eastville was higher in some cities and lower in others. I did not see any trends or patterns occurring in the city of Eastville that would raise any flags or be an issue that needed to be addressed. The indecent exposure that occurred on November 15th, the suspect was a resident of Eastville. On Jake breaks, I spoke to Deputy Peterson, who's the JV Commercial Enforcement Officer, JV Hoopa Valley. He told me a Jake brake is an older term used for a transmission brake that is not used anymore. They now use engine brakes. It turns off the electrical to the motor and uses the back pressure in the cylinders to slow the vehicle and makes a loud noise when it is activated. It is not illegal to use in the county. The city would have to pass an ordinance if they would like to, if they do so, I would suggest they list both jake and engine brakes or any other device that slows a vehicle other than the normal braking system. Safety concerns at the Mike Rohog shooting range. They do offer several hunter shooting safety classes at the range and online. According to the owner, the accidental shooting that occurred on January 14th was the first one in 3 decades, and they were opened in 1971. They have now filed accreditation with the Better Business Bureau, so there is no rating. Other public safety information. On February 19 at 13:56 hours, correction, 1:56 p.m., a 14-year-old male resident of Eastville was at a business located in the 7,000 block of Archibald. Ricardo Gonzalez, a 25-year-old resident of Eastville, approached the 14-year-old, brandished a knife, and demanded the 14-year-old's phone. Gonzalez fled the scene but was located a block away with the victim's cell phone on him. Gonzalez was on active parole for robbery. He was arrested for the robbery and a parole violation. On February 24th, a management company was checking on one of their properties in the 14,000 block of English Setter and discovered the residence had been converted into an indoor marijuana grow. No suspects were at the location, and several hundred marijuana plants were seized. On February 10th, 2017, a collision occurred in front of River Heights Middle School between a 16-year-old juvenile bicyclist and a motorist. The motorist was pulling to the school and struck the bicyclist who was riding on the sidewalk. The bicyclist is a student at Eleanor Roosevelt High School and complained of pain to his right leg, and his mother was notified. And that's all I have. Any questions?
The agenda item shows introduction of special enforcement team.
I'm sorry that has to be canceled. They have an operation tomorrow.
Understood.
We'll have to postpone that.
And fire personnel is not here for their update. Thank you for the lengthy report, Sergeant.
Chairman DaCosta, if I could interject for one moment. Going back to the Jake breaks, that
Yes.
was with regards to a complaint that several of the commissioners expressed at the last Public Safety Commission meeting. As I had indicated, I would contact Waste Management because Vera Montez, that you had indicated was the trucker, is a subcontract to Waste Management. That's where green waste is disposed of. And their facility is in Chino Hills, or excuse me, in Chino. So in contacting Waste Management, I did have actually a conversation with the owner of Vera Montez, and they have spoken to all their drivers. They've issued notices to all of their drivers coming through the city of Eastvale, and have expressly told the drivers they're no longer allowed to be using the Jake breaks in the city of Eastvale during that time period. And so they came into compliance voluntarily. And so I wanted to share that with the commission. So that should be resolved. If you should encounter any further issues, please let me know. And if you are able to obtain a license plate, that's helpful as well. Going back to the comment from Sergeant Davis about the comparison and contrast of other cities with the cluster mailboxes. As you know, this is not a situation that's unique to the city of Eastvale. It's happening all throughout California. In recent conversations with Congressman Calvert, because we met with him last week, he indicated this is happening all throughout his district. He did also share that his office is working directly with the USPS to make sure that the repair or replacement of the cluster mailboxes is expedited, because they are being made aware of complaints that it's taking 30, 60, 90 days to replace, and they did indicate that that's not acceptable. So they will be monitoring that timetable for turnaround on repairs. But again, that is up to the USPS, If the citizens wish to expedite that process even faster than what USPS has requested, they can certainly come out of pocket on their own. But it's my understanding that the USPS has promised to return quicker, have a quicker turnaround process moving forward. They are paying for the replacement of the cluster mailboxes, but the citizens who are victimized do need to file a report with the Sheriff's Department, and they do also need to file a claim with the USPS in order to get into the repair queue. With one of the comments from Sergeant Davis, when it says there's two cluster mailboxes, all of the clusters are different. Some of them have, maybe 10 individual boxes on there. Some of them have 50. So some of the stats that had been reported from citizens are not entirely accurate because they're extrapolating and doing a mathematical equation based on potentially what their mailbox looks like, and that's not entirely an accurate situation. You need to look at the number of clusters and the number of individual boxes on each cluster, and that varies from street to street all throughout the city of Eastvale. So I wanted to try to kind of put that into perspective. It is a problematic area. It is something that we are allocating additional resources towards. We have had the SET team out doing investigations. I can't give you the details of all of that, but I wanted to share that, to just be cognizant that what you read on the internet is not always the truth. So just please take that with a grain of salt. I think sometimes what we read on the internet has a tendency to sensationalize things. Again, I'm not downplaying that this is a problem, but it is something that we're managing, and we will continue to manage it with cooperation of the USPS, the Sheriff's Department, and Congressman Calvert's office. At the town hall meeting, some citizens had asked why, Senator Roth is not tackling this, or why Assemblywoman Cervantes is not tackling this issue, and they can't. The USPS is a federal agency, and that requires a federal legislator, so that would be the congressman. So Ms. Cervantes' chief of staff indicated that this is not within their jurisdiction, so they can't be tackling it, and that same kind of goes with Senator Roth. However, we have asked Congressman Calvert to consider initiating some legislation that would provide for stiffer penalties and consequences related to identity theft, because the individual theft of the mail is not necessarily the problem. It's what they do with your mail after the fact that is the problem. And so he has promised to look into that and potentially pursue some federal legislation that makes the crime of identity theft much more severe, because that is the gift that keeps on giving. Mm-hmm. For any of you that have been victims, it can often take years to restore your credit. But he has also initiated recent legislation, I believe it's H.R. 602, which you can find on his website, which is for stiffer federal penalties against mailbox theft. So we will be working with Congressman Calvert's office to get support for that bill, local support, letters of support, and we'll certainly be posting that information on the city's website to encourage our citizens to be writing to the federal legislators. And lastly, for those of you that were at the town hall meeting, Lieutenant Forbes did a wonderful presentation on the cluster mailboxes, and did point out that since, correct me if I'm wrong, Sergeant Davis, from November to, like, gosh, last week, there have been dozens of people arrested for mailbox theft. So we're not sitting on our hands. We are taking this very seriously and proactively policing and working with citizens that are reporting and are giving license plate numbers and witness information. And so, as I said, he held up pictures of dozens. He had about, 7 or 8 pages of multiple photos of everyone that has been arrested related to mailbox theft. All of these have been posted on the city's website. We always post the Sheriff's Department press releases related to anything that affects the city of Eastvale. So those are all on the city's website under the news feed for people that may not have seen them. But going back, my point is that unfortunately all of those people are also back out on the street. That is not by our doing, that's not by our wishes. This is the result of Proposition 47. And this is going to be even worse when Proposition 57 kicks in, which I believe is April 1st. So these type of crimes have become petty in California. This is not necessarily the case throughout the nation, but welcome to California. And then compound that with AB 109, which is the release of lower level criminals from incarceration. And now you have a lot more people on the streets that in the past would have stayed there and done some time. So it's a bit of a revolving door right now with these thefts, and some of these people are repeats. This is what they do. It's, they feel this is a much more cost-effective way for them to earn a living than to actually work. So this is something that I hope the citizens of Eastvale will push towards their state, and this is not necessarily a legislative issue that the city of Eastvale can tackle. It has to start with the Assembly, has to start with Senate, work its way up to Sacramento. But, repealing Prop 47, repealing Prop 57, AB 109, that would make the biggest difference in the criminal element that's taking place not only in Eastvale but in California as a whole.
I'd like to back up just a touch on the Jake Brake issue, and thank you for reaching out to Waste Management and Viramontes. I do know that Scott Forbes had also relayed some information regarding the city's elevation not warranting auxiliary brake systems because we don't have any steep hills or grades within the city of Eastvale. And I thought maybe we could bring that into an item for discussion during the draft track route study as one of the items, because of the fact that it may have to be a city ordinance that's brought to light regarding that.
That's a very good suggestion, Commissioner DaCosta, Chairman DaCosta. We will make note of that and incorporate that likely into discussion for the truck route study. Yes, Lieutenant Forbes had indicated that, we don't have any steep hills in Eastvale, so there really is no need. I think coming over the River Road Bridge, it's strictly a speed type of situation. People pick up a tremendous amount of speed coming from Norco into the city of Eastvale. And so when they hit that first light, if they hit that first light, for those of you that have experienced that area, people tend to brake pretty quickly because they're coming around a bend, and then there's potentially a traffic signal if they don't hit it right. So yes, there's something we can look into.
Very good. Anything further?
I have a question regarding back to mail. It's probably a law enforcement question. So the cluster boxes themselves, are those post office? Are they owned by the post office? Who owns those?
They're owned by the USPS.
Okay, so when someone vandalizes those, are those filed in state court then, or do you go to the assistant U.S. attorney for that?
Well, they should still contact us, and we'll file a report, a vandalism report, and we'll send them a copy.
So when you say vandalism, state vandalism charge?
That's, I'll have to look into that, but
Okay.
we do encourage all the residents to contact us so we can file a report for stat purposes and for tracking, and then we can send the report to the post office.
Okay.
One of the reasons that it's good for the crime analysts to have this kind of data. Unfortunately, the DA has indicated this is not something they're going to file on unless it is a large-scale operation. So the ones that we have had in the past, there's been a few that were very, very large-scale operations. Those, I think, moved up the food chain. Unfortunately, some of them, they're just in the system, they get booked, they come back out.
So they're cited out and they're typically not filed on? Is that my understanding?
It could still be filed on we'll send the report to the district attorney, and they will file, because it still is a vandalism, and the victim would be the post office because they own the boxes. But it's still a crime that occurred, and we will file charges.
In
and send
state
it to-
court, right?
Correct.
Correct, okay. Thank you.
Moving on to the consent calendar, is there any items for discussion by the commission or city staff that we would like to address before we move to accept? A motion is in hand now for acceptance of the consent calendar as it stands for the Public Safety Commission minutes, Public Information Officer Monthly Summary, Eastvale Connection, Public Works Department update, and Planning Department updates.
I'll make that motion to approve the consent calendar as submitted.
No second.
Commissioner Flores,
Aye.
Commissioner Siebert,
Aye.
Commissioner Wall,
Aye.
Vice Chair Perillo,
Aye.
Chair DeCosta.
Aye.
Motion passes 5-0.
Moving on to commission business items. Local Hazard Mitigation Plan update.
Good evening, Chair and Commissioners. I'm Leah Rodriguez, Senior Analyst in the City Manager's Office. The item before you is simply a recommendation to receive and file. Just a very brief synopsis, and then you had time to review the report. And the Local Hazard Mitigation Plan is something that we're a part of with Riverside County Emergency Management Department. And we had partnered with the Riverside County Emergency Management Department in 2012 to be an annex to the Local Hazard Mitigation Plan. Every 5 years, this is up for renewal, renovation, to make sure that we're doing our due diligence in the community to find out what hazards exist within our community. So this year, we have been meeting as a team, both with ourselves and the Sheriff's Department, with our local cooperators, to determine and ascertain what the local hazards are within the city of Eastvale. We've identified the top 3 preliminarily as the earthquake, fire, and flood. We still have some subsequent ones to work through, but the intent of this report right now is just to keep you abreast of the fact that we are meeting about the local hazard mitigation plan and to provide your commissioners and the public an opportunity to comment on the local hazard mitigation plan process, the planning process, and anything that they see fit. The intention here again is to kind of identify what those hazards are and mitigate them and develop mitigation strategies before they become actual hazards. So, like I said, we have 3 hazards so far identified, and we're still looking at further ones for review. And we'll bring this item back when we're in its final phases for further discussion and final review by the commission, and ultimately by City Council, and for public comment as well. So, as you can see here by the report, we're just in the planning phases of just gathering data, looking at the 5-year trend, looking at fire trends, looking at earthquakes, looking at anything that's happened within our community that we identify as a hazard that we can actually apply a mitigation strategy to. Should the city decide to approve the plan as an annex to the Riverside County EMD All Hazard Plan, we would then be eligible for seeking out mitigation dollars if we qualify for those such funds. And that would be explored at a later date. And that concludes my report, and I'd be happy to answer any questions.
No questions?
No.
Seeing none, motion to accept is in order.
We'll move to receive and file.
Is it a receive and file, or do we have to take a vote? We have to vote. Let's go. I don't think there are motions necessary then.
What was the motion?
I was saying that a motion is at hand, but since we have to vote on it anyway, we can skip the motion and just go right into the vote.
Commissioner Flores,
Aye.
Commissioner Siebert,
Aye.
Commissioner Wall,
Aye.
Vice Chair Perillo,
Aye.
Chair DeCosta.
Aye. Item 5.2, pavement management system update.
Good evening, Mr. Chair and Commissioners. This evening we have some information for you, which I'm sure is going to be an exciting to hear.
You'll
And it's a
make it that
pavement
way.
management program. You know, maybe 50% of my life, professional life, is about pavement, so must be exciting for me, maybe not necessarily for you guys, but the pavement management program is a program to take care of our pavement. Let me just. Okay, sorry, it's not on. To take care of our roadway networks in the city of Eastvale. Some of the facts that we like you to know is that Eastvale has 169 central line miles of pavement. That it consists of 22 miles of arterial streets, 18 of collector, and 127 residential streets. Just a little bit of information here. Arterial is 4 lanes and more. That's arterial. Some secondary, some are major arterial. It's like Sliceman, Limonite, Hamner. 18 miles of collector, which is like two-lane road, one lane in each directions. And collector road is we don't have any homes or houses fronting the collector roads. Those roads that fronting residential is called residential local streets, for which we have 127 miles, center line miles. The replacement value of our asset here is $142 million, which is quite a bit. That's why we're trying to do the best we can to protect our asset. And this pavement management program is a specialized asset management system that will store pavement inventory, maintenance, and maintenance history. And we assess current condition of the pavement, and then of course we're going to forecast future condition and treatment that needed for the some of the streets that we have. The pavement is categorized by what they call PCI, Pavement Condition Index. We can see it a very good, poor, and very poor gradation. The good news is that in 2012, in the first PMP that we did as part of the City Council instruction to staff, the average PCI is 81. So that is in an excellent, in a good area, in the good categories right here. That is in 2012, and then in 2016 we did another update on the PMP, and the average went down by about 3 percentage points, which is really telling us in 4 years, with the development that we have, with the amount of projects that we have, we still can maintain the good condition. For comparison, in 2016, Riverside County has average PCI of 71 countywide, and in California, the PCI average is 65. These are the source of we received from the SafeCaliforniaStreet.org. These are the treatments, some of the pictures that I want to share with you. A River Road Overlay Project, this is by the treatment plan. We can see all these streets, which is in pretty damaged, It's about last year or the year, maybe like about a year ago, we did this work, and this is the after the overlay project that we have. And Sliceman Road overlay, this was before, and actually, this picture here, this is a before, this is after here. I don't know how we get this. Apologize for this labels here. Then it's supposed to be this is some before pictures, and this is the again Sliceman Road that we have. Left is before. You can see all the cracks and the damage, and after the construction we have is on the right hand side. Slurry seal and microsurfacing is an operation where we apply a minor coat, a pretty thin coat of asphalt emulsion, including some sand, some coarse aggregate to protect the surface of the streets. This is for something really minor we have to do this, but anything that is beyond that, we have to do a different kind of treatment. This is a picture of the after and then before. If you look very carefully, the right-hand side is minor cracks, minor, roughness. So in this situation, we can prolong the life of the street for another 3-4 years by just having the slurry seal. We have a crack sealing. The crack normally happens at the seams of the pavement, not always. But this crack right here, what we do, rather than removing the street or doing the grind and overlay, what we do the crack sealing, we call it. So we fill all the crack with asphalt, and that would prolong the street for another 2 to 3 years before we slowly seal the entire streets. So basically, we're trying to stretch the dollars here that we have by not doing the improvements that is major. This is the overlay, the candidate for an overlay or reconstructions. If you can see all the crack and the alligator is so much and so major that this is completely unsalvageable. So in this case, what we do is that we grind about 2 to 3 inches. We edge it all the way to the edge, and then we put another 2 to 3 inches of asphalt, the new asphalt on top. That's going to be lasting under normal conditions for like 7 years or so. Our staff always provide an effort and make an effort to do the balancing. We try to stretch the dollars as much as we can, the one is budgeted and approved at City Council. And we coordinate with the development and utility development projects. We have just recently a couple of major utility work on Harrison and Citrus, that's a gas company, and also on Sumner and other areas. We have ILB, which is working for SCE to put their system. So we try to coordinate as much as we can with the project that they have. So when they come into town, we were wishing that they come into the street that is in a bad shape. So after they are done, they remove and then they fix our street at no cost to the city. We tried as best we can, as much we can, doing it that way. So we have utility coordination meeting every 3 months, quarterly. We share the project with the utilities, and then we plan our projects accordingly based on that. Coordinating with the development is also one of the items that we have done in the past several years. We have major development in town, and we try as much as we can to stretch, again, the CIP projects as much as we can to push it out, waiting for the development to come to town so they can widen and then improve the street in front of their projects. However, despite all the efforts that we have, once in a while we miss, and then we always get the criticism from public, but it's humbling from time to time because they always criticize us. How come you don't think about this? How come you don't spend the money wisely and look at this guy cut the street and they pave it, and then another guy come another month later to cut the same street. So those are the things that we always take into consideration when we plan for new projects. We learn from past experience, and we improve ourselves trying to balance all these efforts. As a result of that, we spend only $2 million in total since incorporation in total projects related to roadways. We have Archibald between River Road and Prado Basin, the Sliceman between Harrison and Sumner, Chandler, you can see that between Hall and Archibald, and River Road, I had the picture earlier, and we also spent residential slurry seal dollars. We are thankful that in Eastvale, majority of the residential streets that we have, because of the development that happens in the past 15 to 16 years, we have all the streets in pretty nice shape, good shape. But after 9-10 years, we have to fix those roads, and that's what we do. We try to budget that every year, even though we don't do the projects every year. We try to get with the economy of scales by getting the projects, large projects, so we can get the cost down. So this residential slurry seal is going to happen again this coming year, hopefully before the fall. So the type of funding that we use for these projects that we have, the major fundings is gas tax fund and Measure A fund. As you know, gas tax funds is the fund that is as part of the tax imposed on the sale of gasoline. It has come down quite a bit in the last 5 years or so, maybe 3 years, because the gas price is going down. So there's a percentage of that we get, and this is used for street-related projects, whether maintenance or construction. We use most of the gas tax funds in one of the major streets that we have. The Measure A fund is also for street, but mostly used for local street construction, like the residential slurry seal. This is actually the Riverside County 0.5% sales tax. In 16-17, the revenue budget for these two funds is 1.5 and 1.2 million respectively. We also trying to go after grant money as much as we can. We try to apply for grants, and sometimes we get it, sometimes we don't. But in the past 5 years, we get quite a bit, and for example, Sliceman Road that we just showed earlier between Harrison and Sumner, and that was using grant money. We have about $250,000 from the federal money, and that cut the cost down quite a bit. The cost of the whole project is about $500,000, so that's half of the money that's using the grant money. What we programmed for 2016 and 2017 is Hamner Avenue between 68 and Greystone. There's several locations that we have, and residential subdivision is $1.7 million, which is a slurry seal, and the arterial and collector corridors, microsurface and asphalt overlay, $1.2 million. The strategy for our PMP, for pavement management program, is number one is to identify the level of investment and how much money we have in our budget year by year. And then we have to balance that again, the money that we spend with the level of the street that we want to have. Okay, if we want to have a PCI at 90, for example, it's going to cost super, high dollars, and we don't have the budget for that. So we have to balance that and see what is a common and sort of happy medium that the City Council would like to have. And evaluate the funding over 5 million, 5-year project, 5-year period. We incorporate the cost-effective maintenance treatments to meet the 5-year plan, and we recommend a 2-year work plan for City Council approval. And obviously, every year, every time, every season, especially after the rainy season that we just had recently, we continue to monitor and assess and evaluate. We make some adjustments accordingly, because we cannot just stick with the plan without making adjustments. And for example, this past storm has caused a lot of damage in our streets. We have a lot of potholes. In one day, there was like 56 potholes, and the second rain, we have like another 30 potholes. And we continue to do that, and then in hope that we have the time that we can plan, and then we do some resurfacing of the streets. We continue to work on coordination with the city CIP with utility agencies. There's a quarterly meeting we have. We coordinate with the city's resurfacing projects with development projects, such as Goodman Commerce on Hamner between Cantu and Belgrade. They're building our streets right there, basically. We coordinate the pavement maintenance efforts with neighboring agencies on shared roads. We had that on Hellman between Chino and Eastvale, And that was actually a tri-party agreement, which is very, very nice, because at that time Lennar Homes was building Chandler and Hellman. We asked them to work with us. We paid their contractor. We have an agreement with them. And Chino is willing to enter the agreement as well. So they did that as part of their work, bring the cost down and bring the cost down for us as well. I think we're saving about $200,000 just for Hellman Avenue. This is the plan that we have. It's a draft 2-year plan. May not be very clear here, but I'm hoping in your package you can see a better picture. The solid line is the first year plan, and the dashed line is the second year plan. So if you can see this, we have quite a bit of work that we have to do in the city of Eastvale. And also we have different kind of treatments. I wish I could enlarge this for you, but if you have any question, you can ask me at the meeting or after the meeting. And this is the slurry seal project that we are planning. You can see the red color is what we did previously 2 years ago, and we are planning the gold area, the gold color. If you live in any of these areas of the gold area here, you'll see it's going to be slurried in the next 5 to 6 months or so. That concludes my presentation, and I'll be happy to answer any questions you may have.
Chairman DaCosta, one of the reasons we added this item to the agenda is that with the recent rains, we have gotten an influx of complaints about what are we doing about the streets, and the streets are in disrepair. And so we wanted to make sure that the commission was aware that it is not done haphazardly. This is actually a very methodical and planned out process that is tied to our budget. So if you look back at the city's budget year over year, there is a capital improvement portion. And we are able to frequently reduce the cost to the city by our public works staff making a coordinated effort with the development projects, because sometimes the developer will take on things that were actually part of our CIP to perform. I wanted to, this is more of an educational component, just wanted to make sure that the commission and the citizens at large do know that there is a process. It is not haphazard, that we are continuing to work through the various portions of the CIP and this capital improvement project. And in preparation of, I think it was our first major storm of the season, Public Works staff was out there surveying all of the streets in Eastvale, all the major arterials before the storm even occurred, because once the water gets under the pavement, that's where you have more progressive erosion. And they were actually very proactive, got out there, circled all the damaged areas. I'm sure you've kind of seen them throughout the city. You see this paint on the street circling something. The paint will wash away, and it was a temporary paint. But the point is that they went out proactively and patched with a hot mix, patched all of the, I think it was 47 potholes in one day, to kind of preserve our streets and not let the onslaught of storms further erode them, which kind of plays into the timing of our CIP project. So we want to try to extend some of the life of the infrastructure and move forward with those plans that are, next in line. So this is actually, as I said, an education and outreach sort of staff report to make people aware of what we're doing, because I think Public Works is kind of an unsung hero in the city. A lot of people don't realize what goes into managing public works, and it's not just the streets. There's a lot to it. For those of you that, not the commission, but really for the benefit of the public, these full staff reports are in the agenda packet. So they do need to go to the city's website and download the agenda packet to see the maps that Public Works is referencing in their PowerPoint, as well as the content of all the staff reports that have been discussed here tonight. So I kind of say that for the benefit of our friends on Facebook Live, courtesy of Mr. Pettinger. Again, it's on the city's website, which is www.eastvalca.gov, and citizens can register for e-notification to receive the agenda packets. So, sorry for the long dissertation, but I wanted you to understand why this item was in the packet.
I'd like to comment on that. One, thank you. You're right, pavement isn't my everyday thought like for you. But I will mention several months ago in Money Magazine, when Eastvale was named the best place in California to live, one of the opening accolades was, in fact, the city streets and the scarcity of any potholes. So thank you for your diligence.
Any other comments? Moving on to the public comment section. Have we had any cards filled out? I'll just remind, if I may, this is a time when any member of the public may bring a matter to the attention of the chair and commission that is within our jurisdiction of our Public Safety Commission. The Ralph M. Brown Act limits the Public Safety Commission's and staff's ability to respond to comments on non-agendized matters at the time such comments are made. Thus, your comments may be agendized for a future meeting or referred to staff. The Public Safety Commission may discuss or ask questions for clarification if desired. At this time, we ask that you fill out a speaker request form available at the side table. The completed form is to be submitted to the recording secretary prior to the start of the meeting. Public comment is limited to 2 minutes, each with a maximum of 6 minutes. Good evening, sir. How are you?
Good evening. My name is Ray Hernandez. I live on Dearborn Street, Eastville, and I just want to make some commentary on the mailbox crime. Has anybody seen actually a crime in action here? I have an image here if you want to take a look at it. Pass it up there.
I know you're not a bailiff, but I appreciate that.
Just take a look at that. I want to compliment our city manager.
I'm sorry, sir, was this on Dearborn Street?
Actually, it was a resident. And that was, I believe, on Mississippi Street, on the 15th, and it was at 8 p.m. So we're not only having break-ins at night, we're having them during the daylight.
I've seen this one.
Get back, I want to compliment our city manager for getting out on the Mel Drive situations. And as much as going on to resolve this, I think we need to do better. We need to come up with solutions to better educate the public, the residents, of what's going on, and I think we're lacking there. Let me just make some commentary here. I reported, actually I did report it, but I want to give you the information how I got it. I got a letter here from Lieutenant Forbes back in February 6th, and it says, Mr. Hernandez, your request for the number of mailbox thefts in the city of Eastville for January 2017 was forwarded to me by the Information Service Bureau. I made that request on February 6th. The check of sheriff's records indicate that during January 2017, 28 incidents of mail theft were reported. Although we cannot say with certainty due to the way the victims reported the location of the occurrence, it appears that the thefts were from 13 mailbox communities. Feel free to contact me. Now, in each cluster, there are 13 on some of the boxes. And granted, there are 10 on the others. If you have 28 incidents here, and the average thing this out, 28 times 13 is over 400 potential, okay, potential, not to say that that's the case, but it's not to say that it wasn't or half of that. My whole point is, this is a whole lot. Just tonight, it was indicated there were three mailbox clusters broken. Well, that's 36 slots right there, clusters. So, in my view, we're under siege with mailbox crime in this city. Now, it bothers me that it's the region, it bothers me that it's Southern California, but it bothers me more than it's Eastville. This is where I live. And I think we could do better. We can come up with some ideas. I brought some ideas to the city council a few weeks back, and that was to provide, develop a reward system for any member of the public who can identify, who helps convict, catch a criminal, you know, and to create a poster, to create a flyer or a mailer to better educate our residents. I just learned during the week that somebody came up with a great idea to post a picture that on the side of the mailbox that there are cameras looking at you. Well, with that, I'd like to add on that and say there is a reward there also. You're not only being looked at.
Sir? Hi. Your name was Richard?
Ray Hernandez.
Ray?
Hernandez.
Ray Hernandez. Thank you. I've given you an extra 2 minutes to speak right now.
Okay.
And I've heard you come up with a reward system.
Yes, a
as
reward system for the public, and add the fact that there's a camera that may be
fixated on the mailbox cluster.
Okay, that seems to be the most cost-effective method.
But would that be true to form if that sign or information is put on that mailbox that there would be a camera fixated on that spot? Because you don't want to just fictitiously put that information out there without some substance.
Where there are cameras, there are cameras that are focused on mailboxes in certain houses.
If I may also interject, regarding the camera systems that a lot of people are installing, they are fixating at least one so that it is aimed at a cluster mailbox where they are in position.
That's why I gave it to this.
Right.
It is going on. Unfortunately, not every mailbox is facing the house, which some resident can do that. That's the downside.
I do not want to belabor the signage, though. Outside of the reward aspect that you have presented, is there any other issue that you would like to present, as I have given you an extra 2 minutes to speak at this time?
Not at this time.
Okay.
But, you know, we need to come up with some ideas. You know, everything else that's been mentioned is working slowly. Doubling the fines may be approved by the Assembly of Congress or not, probably won't. So we're going to be dealing with this issue. Incidentally, one of the reasons that our numbers are down in February versus January is rain, okay, the weather. Here we have refunds coming from the tax returns, and you're going to see a spike. So again, education, everybody looking closely, is one method to make us do better in trying to address this problem we have in the city.
Understood. And I do want to say that the city of Eastvale, the residents here, are prominently what has prompted the catching of many of these criminals from their security camera systems being highly technologically advanced, more so than the adequacy of that picture in itself and photo, where you can make an image out of who the individual is, but they've captured license plate numbers and other information that has helped the Sheriff's Department tremendously. So I do appreciate you sharing with us your input.
We need to do more and we need to do better. It's not stopping. It seems to be.
This process won't happen overnight, though.
No, but we begin somewhere.
And we've been addressing this issue at this meetings in previous months as well. So welcome to the meeting tonight.
Well, great, because I'll be back.
Thank you.
Thank you.
We hope so.
Any further comments at this time?
No, sir.
City staff report?
Good evening, Chairman DaCosta and Commissioners. First, I do want to correct something that I stated previously, because I don't like to give incorrect information. Referring back to my conversation with Congressman Calvert, the bill that I referenced that would increase the penalties for mail theft is H.R. 603. H.R. 602 is his federal legislation to establish a zip code, a unique and unifying zip code for the city of Eastvale. So my apologies, we talked about two different bills that were very close in numbers. So 603 is officially entitled Ensuring the Safety of Our Mail Act of 2017. It's to amend Title 18 of the United States Code to increase the maximum penalty for mail theft. They are amending by striking not more than 5 years and inserting not more than 10 years. So they're increasing the penalty to 10 years. So I just wanted to make that clear. And anyone that's interested in additional information on either of those bills can certainly find them on the Congressman's website. If I could briefly comment on Mr. Hernandez's suggestion about providing a reward. This is something that Mr. Hernandez also brought up at the City Council meeting. I'm not sure that is legally admissible because that becomes a gift of public funds. We are the stewards of the taxpayer dollar, and I take that very seriously. And so there is nothing that I would engage in that could be misconstrued as a misuse of public funds or a gift of public funds. So that suggestion may not be viable. That's something that's going to have to work through the legal department. As far as the city paying for signs that say, you're on camera, that is also not something that the city would engage in because we're not supplying cameras for every single cluster mailbox throughout the city. That is just not financially feasible. So if a citizen wishes to do that, that is certainly something that they may engage in at their own cost. But again, as Commissioner DaCosta had pointed out, to place a sticker on there, creating potentially a false sense of security if there is no camera pointing at the cluster mailbox, that again opens up another problem. So I commend the citizens. I did post something on a Facebook page this morning that I saw while I was driving home from dropping my kids off at Roosevelt, that someone put a sign on a cluster mailbox. So I commend the citizens that are being rather inventive and thinking of creative ways to problem solve for their immediate neighborhood. But that is, at this time, that is not something that the city would fund or the city would engage in because we're not providing the cameras, we're not monitoring the cameras. Again, the concern of financial obligation by the city, that is not something that's included in our budget. So I don't mean to sound like a naysayer, but there needs to be another solution. Again, going back to the discussion with Congressman Calvert, we have asked him to potentially push the USPS for a redesign of cluster mailboxes. So, USPS doesn't typically do anything fast, so we'll see where that goes. I do know that some of the cluster mailboxes that are being installed now are reinforced, so they are not of the same quality. They're a higher quality and heavier gauge of metal, so that is very good news. We also provided him with the feedback that the outgoing mail slot should be eliminated because that's where they're inserting a crowbar and popping the boxes open. And then that is, again, something that they would take into consideration, but since it's a federal agency and it's a federal process and it's their standards, it would take time to work through. We have offered for the city of Eastville to be a pilot for any type of new cluster mailboxes that they may want to test out. That has not materialized yet, but again, we will continue that relationship with Congressman Calvert's office and continue to push this issue. Thank you.
Thank you.
Good evening again, Mr. Chair, Commissioners. I just want to report that the next couple of days, we're going to have some dirt hauling operations in the city of Eastville. Our East End project has started, and they've been waiting for the rain to dry out so the dirt can be scooped and get to the trucks. It's going to be a busy area in East End area. We have the 3 schools. Been working as much as we can with the contractor, with the permit, with the inspectors that we have. We've advised our sheriff department about this operation, so just watch for that. Just if you see that, and just if you have any concerns, please let us know in the Public Works Department. And also on Sumner and Sliceman, Sumner and Limonite, there's a new project there, Eastvale Marketplace. You see the amount of dirt waiting there, sitting, and they are just about being moved right now. There may be some kind of a transaction between that location and the East End project. The East End project needs to remove some of the dirt, about 3 feet or so from the top layer, and they have to fill it back with a new, more suitable dirt for the building. That is the information we have for you. Just in case you have any reports, please call our Public Works Department. So we have been monitoring this very closely. We'll be doing that for the next several weeks. Thank you.
I have one quick thing, or a couple quick things for you on behalf of the PIO PAC. I want to make the commissioners aware that you will be seeing a lot of invitations coming out to your calendars by myself, so don't feel obligated to accept everything. It's just, we want to make sure that you're aware of all the events that are going on, all the events that you're invited to. So, Mr. Wall specifically, you don't have to respond to all of them. I know it's going to be a lot, so just know I just put them on your calendar, and then I'm happy to RTC on your behalf to any of the entities that you would be saying yes to. One of the things I wanted, or a few things I wanted to bring up was upcoming events, which you probably see in your calendars. But for the public that's watching this, on Thursday, March 2nd, which is this Thursday, we have the Eastvale Chamber of Commerce Connection Breakfast at 7 a.m. at Buffalo Wild Wings. On Saturday, March 4th, we saw today go out the Eastvale Little League opening ceremony at Rada Heritage Park, which will be held at 10 a.m. as the first pitch. I understand we'll have a small parade as well. Something to keep in mind too is Eastvale's 6th annual State of the City will be on Tuesday, April 4th, and the flyers have gone out, so we need to make sure that we're RSVPing for that. I'm happy to do so on your behalf if you'd like me to. And to close, our city manager is going to provide a report, but we have on Wednesday, April 19th, the grand opening of our Fire Station 31, which will be at 10 a.m. And formal invitations will be going out within the next week or so. So with that, I'll turn it over back to the city manager for a quick update.
Good evening again. I wanted to make sure that we share this information with the commission as well. This is a presentation that was given at the city council meeting last week. On Wednesday of last week at 8 o'clock in the morning, we officially opened Fire Station 31 and began running calls out of Fire Station 31, which is located on Chandler and Selby. This is the original conceptual plan of Fire Station 31. You know, this is a big deal for the city of Eastvale, and I don't know if people realize that. This is the first thing that we have officially built as a city, that it was our process, our staff, our money, our taxpayers' dollars at work. This was not a county project. And this project was a long, long time in the making. It started gosh, back in 2011. So I've been very proud to be a part of that project since 2011. It started with trying to find land. I know we've gotten several questions, you know, why did we do this location? Back in 2011, 2010, we did a feasibility study and looked at calls for service and growth models for the area. And then you kind of overlay that data in sort of GIS maps and start to see overlapping circles that identified the ideal location in the city to place the second fire station, to reduce the response time on calls for service, and to also reach the growth on the west side of Eastville. So that's how we came up with this location. This land was ideally situated and at the right price. So this was our first day at the fire station. You can see in the top left-hand corner, that's the first response coming out of Fire Station 31 at 8 o'clock in the morning. So with that, I also want to show that this took a lot of money to build, and this is the citizens' taxpayer dollars at work. There was land acquisition that we had to plan for, furniture, design and engineering, and the bulk of it is the construction costs. So you're looking at a project that took us 6 years to come to fruition at approximately $7.5 million. This does not include the brand new fire truck that is also running out of that fire station. That's a Spartan 1. It's the newest technology in fire trucks. That will be coming to one of the commission meetings for you guys to kind of check it out and take a look at all the bells and whistles, but it is state of the art. And this budget number does not include the increased staffing, because we did have to increase the staffing so that we can provide adequate services out of Station 31. And that staffing started actually back in January to make sure that everything would run smoothly. So due to the diligent efforts of staff, you know, we do get a structural fire fund, which comes through taxes. But staff also identified other funding sources to pay for some of the other portions of the fire station project. So CDBG, that stands for Community Development Block Grant. We used CDBG dollars to do some of the infrastructure improvements near Fire Station 31. We used Zone 2 flood control dollars for water and sewer, and a storm drain. And of course we used some gas tax dollars. But this is really speaks to the vision and commitment from City Council and all of our commissioners to again make public safety the #1 priority. That's how it's identified in our strategic plan, and that has been the city's focus from the beginning. And as you can see, we kind of put our money where our mouth is. We've added a second fire station, we've added additional staffing, we've added additional equipment, and you know, you have a brand new fire station. Someday maybe we'll have a city hall, but until then, you have a brand new fire station. And you should all be very proud. It is beautiful, and I hope that you'll join us on April 19th. It's really going to be a special day. We have some special surprises. Because for those of you that don't realize, April 19th is also the anniversary of the bombing of Oklahoma City. So I'm not going to give everything away. I'm just going to throw that out there. There will be some correlation, and we hope that you'll join us on April 19th at the fire station. Oh, and there you go. There's the invitation. This is posted on the city's Facebook page, and it is open to the public. And I'd be happy to answer any questions on that. And congratulations.
Thank you. Without further ado, Commission Communications.
I have something, and I'll appeal to the staff. I don't know if this should be a separate agenda item, but I'd like to bring something up that, just to have a discussion with the commission regarding an effort to support what the city's doing right now, and I don't know if it needs to be a separate agenda, but it's regarding streetlights. It's my understanding that the city is currently vetting the process to purchase about 4,000 streetlights from Southern California Edison. Currently, JCSD receives Eastvale tax money, pays for those, and the thought now is to have City of Eastvale purchase those streetlights for us. That will give the city also, on a public safety level, the ability to retrofit those lights with LED lights, which would benefit law enforcement and others. When you call the police, one of the first things they're going to ask is, why are you calling? And if there's suspect description, what do they look like? What are they wearing? And with LED lights, colors show up better and have better information for law enforcement. So on a public safety issue, there's just better lighting. So I'd like to have to bring that up. So if the commission were to offer some sort of support, supporting what the city is doing, would that be a separate agenda item?
If the commission collectively this evening would like to authorize staff to prepare a letter of support for the city of Eastvale, we could do that. It does not necessarily need to be another agenda item for upcoming agenda. Although I would be happy to, for your benefit and information, give you a presentation at the next Planning or Public Safety Commission meeting to kind of give you an overview of the streetlight program. One reason, if the commission wishes to have staff draft a letter of support, that we would suggest that be expedited, is that there is an expiration date on engaging with Edison and signing an agreement. The deadline is March 31st.
So I would like to see that. It's important that the council knows that we are supporting them. Also, I think it'd be beneficial for everybody to have information.
So I'd say we make that as an acceptance of a motion on his behalf for the commission to support.
Yes, with a consensus by the commission, staff can draft a letter of support from the commission.
Agreed, and I second that.
To the city council.
If I'm not out of line, I would second that.
Thank you.
Commissioner Forrest?
Aye.
Commissioner Siebert?
Aye.
Commissioner Wall?
Aye.
Vice Chair Pereira?
Aye.
Chair DeCosta?
Aye.
Motion passes 5-0.
Any other agenda items?
One more. I'd like to take the opportunity to welcome Commissioner Wall. You have a great bunch. We're all here to support you. We have the Brown Act, but besides that, anything you need, please let us know.
Thank you very much.
Commissioner Siegel?
Nothing.
No.
Nothing.
Welcome as well.
Thank you, sir.
Regarding mailbox thefts, I was a victim and have since become a proponent of doing, as you mentioned, putting cameras on my mailbox cluster, which is the only camera affixed on my house because of the due diligence that I see in trying to keep my mail intact. And it's a violation to me of my personal property when it's stolen. And it really hit us hard, not financially, but the burden was felt. It was right around Christmas time, so children's gifts were taken. I have two young daughters, and as a dad, it made my heart heavy. So I am fully aware of this being a problem in this city, but it's on us as citizens to do our due diligence. That being said, this city is amazing when its citizens come together to throw events like one that was held on Saturday, and getting the word out through social media and through our residents, just being in a camaraderie, so to speak, just to come alongside with one another and to see so many at that said event was amazing. So I know that there's going to be more cameras being installed in a short amount of time in the near future and not so much the distant future. The United States Postal Service, as we heard, is a federal agency, and they drag their feet with everything, as most federal agencies do, because they have so much things or many items to address, I'm sure. But they've placed the burden on its customers that they are desiring us to fund the repair and replacements in many cases. But the only way to eliminate the issues, one of them being this outgoing mail slot that seems to be the point of vulnerability, is to complain regarding that being solely one of the issues with these cluster mailboxes. If they're not told that that's the issue, and I'm not sure if they read the police reports that might get sent over to those investigators when they do their investigations, but it's up to us to make sure that we reach out to the proper entities. It's up to us as customers to complain and report to the proper entities, that being the Sheriff's Department, as well as the United States Postal Service investigations departments. Two separate entities, they do not work hand in hand. They may not reach out to one another. And they may not even bring their case against any individual, because at the end of the day, it's not law enforcement's job, it's the district attorney's job. And at the end of the day, from a federal standpoint, I believe it's the Attorney General's job. So we may have our hands tied, so to speak, but with camera deployments, as we see in the near future, I believe, I think we'll be able to make a crack at trying to minimize this impacting our city. I do appreciate you, sir, as well as the rest of the citizens being here tonight, as we'd like to see more of this interaction. We need more of this interaction because you bring some valid points. Again, I believe the reward system may not be one of the avenues that we can entertain as a valid solution at this time. And signage, I feel from a criminal standpoint, and no, I'm not or have not been a criminal, but I wouldn't want to put some signage on a mailbox in front of my house, leading someone to believe that they're being watched or on camera when they really might not be. It's a little bit more of a violation for them to think that they're being watched and they're not, and then to take and move away from the mailbox than to go burglarize the house across the street. And now that becomes another substance of or level of criminal activity that I don't think anybody in this city would want to face. And again, I thank you all for being here. I welcome you, Richard Wall.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you all the staff, my fellow commissioners, Sheriff's Department, Sergeant Bill Davis, Don Pettinger. It is now.
Wait, I'm sorry, Commissioner
Please.
or Chairperson DaCosta, I do have one last item I wanted to share with you. Lieutenant Forbes, at a future meeting, we don't have the date set, so I would be remiss in trying to promise you something. He is making arrangements to have someone from the USPS come and give a presentation about the cluster mailboxes. So you can look forward to that at a future meeting.
Good
Date
info.
to be determined.
Thank you. So I would say that would be announced on the city's website or on our agenda in the future meeting when it is presented.
Absolutely, it would be part of an agenda packet. It would, much like we have a section about presentations, it would be listed under the presentation section. Once we have additional details, we'll certainly make you aware.
Very good. I do want to make a correction to our adjournment, and next regular meeting of the Eastvale Public Safety Commission is scheduled for Tuesday, March 28, as it states here, February. Anything else from anybody at this time? Seeing no one, 7:22, we will adjourn this meeting.
Thank you.